Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of A Different Point of View. I'm KonateLilas, your host, and without further ado, let's get into today's topic. So with all of the mass shootings going on, the first one that took place in Buffalo and the other one that took place in Texas, I just want to give my thoughts on gun laws and gun control. And I have a lot of mixed feelings about it. First of all, I don't think that criminals and robbers and rapers and murderers should be the only people that are armed. I think that regular American citizens should have the right to defend their property, and they should have the right to defend their families. Because these are the same people that the government is trying to protect us from. But before that happens, we need to be able to protect ourselves. I also don't think that stricter gun laws is going to do anything to bring down the crime rate. History has shown that it hasn't. So criminals don't really care about gun laws. That's why they're criminals. I don't think that, people say, well, you know what? Before I do this drive-by shooting, let me make sure that my gun is registered. Let me make sure that I have all the proper licenses. Let me make sure that I have all the proper paperwork on my gun before I go do a drive-by shooting. And if someone is robbing you at gunpoint, they say, give me your money. This is a stick-up. I don't think that you can say to them, wait, now hold on. Before you rob me, do you have your proper license and paperwork? And they're like, oh, you know what? I don't. Maybe I should rob you. No, I don't really think it works that way. And if someone wants to do a mass shooting, I don't think that stricter gun laws are going to do anything because, once again, criminals don't care about the law. That's part of what makes them criminals. So while I believe that people should have guns in their home, I don't necessarily think it's a good idea for everyone to just be walking around the street, armed. I think what can happen in a situation like that, well, at least my worry with that is that a lot of conflicts that would normally end in a middle finger or an FU can end up in a homicide. Think about how many road rage incidents would end up with someone being killed with just an argument, hey, you skipped me in the line, or bang, bang, bang. So is it a good idea for everyone to be walking around with guns, especially in an environment where you have inflation and people are stressed out and people are upset, and it doesn't really take a lot to set people off? I see it every day. So yes, I do think that you should be able to protect your home, but I don't think it's a good idea for everyone to walk around strapped. The other thing about these gun laws is that I don't really see where it's necessary, and I've listened to hours of videos, and no one in Congress, especially if we're talking about Republicans, no one has really explained to me why is it necessary for just a regular citizen to walk around with an AR-15. I just don't see why that's necessary. It's one thing if you say, I want to protect my home, I want to protect my family, but these automatic weapons, these AK-47s, these AR-15s, these are offensive weapons. These are killing machines. So, and I guess that's part of the argument, right? That if someone wants to go and shoot up a school, they won't be able to do with such efficiency and accuracy, which is what happened in Buffalo and which is what happened in Texas. And I am still waiting for somebody to explain to me why regular people need an automatic weapon. And then I don't understand how an 18-year-old gets to go to a gun store, purchase an automatic weapon, then purchase a body armor. So if I can't think of a reason why somebody needs, an 18-year-old needs an automatic weapon because you don't use it for hunting, I definitely don't understand why they need body armor. What's the body armor for? So yes, there's something. And then in states like Texas is ridiculous. Texas, anybody can just go ahead and just buy a gun.
This is Texas Governor Greg Abbott in June of last year signing 7 laws that made it easier to own a gun in Texas. That was all part of a slew of legislation that he signed loosening gun restrictions in the state. And one of the laws makes it legal to carry handguns in public without a license for anyone over 21. Now, prior to that, Texans needed to take a 4 to 6 hour training course. They had to pass a written exam. They had to pass a shooting proficiency exam, or at least demonstrate that they have shooting proficiency. Abbott's signature eliminated all of that. Another one of those laws declared Texas a sanctuary state for guns, which basically forbids local agencies from enforcing federal gun laws.
You know, inevitably, when there's a murder of this kind, you see politicians try to politicize it. You see Democrats and a lot of folks in the media whose immediate solution is to try to restrict the constitutional rights of law-abiding citizens. That doesn't work. It's not effective. It doesn't prevent crime. We know what does prevent crime, which is going after felons and fugitives and those with serious mental illness, arresting them, prosecuting them when they try to illegally buy firearms.
Here's an idea, Senator. Texas currently does not require background checks for guns sold or traded at gun shows. So if you want to prevent felons from getting their hands on guns, fixing that sounds like a layup. I mean, the reality here is it is incredibly easy to access a gun perfectly legally in Texas. That's the truth. The Giffords Law Center to Prevent Gun Violence gives Texas gun laws an F, literally an F. They point out that it is so easy to get guns in Texas that gangs actually smuggle them across the border into Mexico. They buy them in Texas, smuggle them into Mexico. That's how easy it is to get them in Texas. Texas State Senator Rolando Gutierrez told NBC News tonight that in a briefing with Texas State Rangers said that the shooter in Uvalde purchased 2 assault rifles on his 18th birthday legally. The shooter turned 18 last Monday. Now here we are today. Laws matter. Joining us now is Robin Thomas, Executive Director at the Giffords Law Center to Prevent Gun Violence. Robin, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I know it has been a long day for you and everyone else. Prior to today, 2 of the deadliest mass shootings in the past decade, Sutherland Springs in 2017 and El Paso in 2019, they both unfortunately happened in Texas, and yet Republicans in Texas, they're still totally obsessed with making Texas as legally pro-gun as possible. How do you understand that? I mean, how is this still a winning issue for them politically when their constituents are being killed and they're trying to make it easier to get guns in their state?
Well, part of it is exactly what Ted Cruz was just talking about, which is that, for one thing, politicians are in the pocket of the NRA and the gun lobby and special interests. They don't represent the interests of their constituents. They don't act in the interests of public safety. They do what the lobbyists tell them to do. And in part, they get away with it because they're willing to lie. I mean, most of what...
So it's crazy in Texas. Now, in 1994, and this is what I guess a lot of Democrats are going to argue, in 1994, Bill Clinton did sign into law an assault rifle ban, and it expired in 2004. Now, prior and what encouraged this, because this thing of mass shootings, it's actually not as new as we think it was. I know a lot of people think back to Columbine, but I don't really have time to give you an entire history lesson. But in the 80s, up until the late 80s, there were other mass shootings. And people said, okay, enough is enough. We need some type of ban. So within that 10 years, mass shootings did drop very, very slightly. However, after 2004 and after you had the ban, the mass shootings actually tripled. So is there evidence that stricter gun laws may lower the amount of mass shootings? Yes. There is but on the other hand, if we're talking about overall crime, stricter gun laws have zero effect on overall crime, because criminals and gangbangers, they're going to purchase guns and they're going to do what they feel that they have to do regardless. If you really want to stop crime, and if you really want to stop the violence in our communities, stricter gun laws, more cops, sending more people to jail, that's not really the solution. It hasn't worked. Cities like Chicago have more murders in days of the year. What you really need is to give people jobs. You need economic programs. You need economic empowerment programs. These things will stop a lot of the high crime rates. But it's funny, everybody knows it. This is no secret. There is a direct correlation between poverty and crime. High unemployment, high crime. Low economics, high crime. Why don't we address the poverty situation? Why don't we address the low economic situation, and the crime will take care of itself? The other thing that needs to be done is that there needs to be more access to mental health professionals. Right now in our society, a lot of your medical coverage doesn't cover that. First of all, a lot of us don't even have medical coverage. And if you do have medical coverage, more often than not, it doesn't cover it. And this access to mental health professionals, psychiatrists and psychologists, for the most part, it has a lot to do with class. And it shouldn't be only rich people that have access to mental health professionals. These are the things that need to be done. Yes, should we reinstate the assault weapons ban? Yes, because every little bit helps. But understand, reinstating the assault weapons ban, having stricter gun laws is not going to drop the murder rates in cities all across America. So, those are my thoughts. I would love to hear yours. Please like, share, and subscribe. This is Konate with another episode of A Different Point of View. Peace. Oh, I'm sorry. Please support the merch. Mental Slavery. Support the merch. And I'll see you again soon. Konate out. Peace.